describes Sati. Sati is one of the social evils that I have learned when I was a kid. Of course, in social studies, everyone had learned about it. So, what exactly Sati is? Sati is basically a Hindu ritual where a woman or the widowed wife enters into the funeral fire of her husband. This practice rooted in a specific interpretation of the widowed wife showing her loyalty and devotion towards her deceased husband. But it also has a lot of societal views that devalued women's life and autonomy. So today let's decode what exactly is this Sati in this video, and please do follow, subscribe so that you can get these kind of videos every day. Have you subscribed? Let's get into the video. For nearly 250 years, colonial historians, missionaries and administrators depicted Sati as a widespread barbaric Hindu ritual. The image served as a justification for British colonial rule, portraying Indian society as backward and in need of civilization. However, modern research, including works by Meenakshi Jain, reveals that Sati was in fact a rare practice occurring in exceptional cases rather than a social norm. Then why this happened? Because colonial rulers, they needed a moral justification for their rule. So they exaggerated this rare social phenomenon to paint Indian history as backward, cruel and regressive. The earliest Hindu scriptures like the Vedas, Upanishads and Dharma Shastras, they do not sanction this ritual called Sati. Passages often cited in these scriptures, which are favor to this practice, they often misread or misinterpreted by these colonial translators or scholars. For example, the word agre means to go beyond was interpreted as agne, means getting into the fire, though the text actually encouraged her to return to society and remarry. Later, Smritis and Puranas included references of Sati, suggesting it as a latter development rather than an ancient injunction. The question is, why did it happen? Again, because these colonial translators or scholars, they often twisted or misread these scriptures, sometimes deliberately, in order to make it fit evolving in the social norms or to support political and religious agendas. Let's see the origin and mythological basis of the word Sati. So the mythological basis of the word Sati is associated and lies in the story of goddess Sati, who protested against her father who insulted her husband. This act was symbolic of honor and protest, not widow immolation. Over time, the symbolism was reinterpreted into practice, where widow burning was considered the highest form of devotion and sacrifice, because myths were gradually reimagined and interpreted as social perceptions, turning a symbolic divine act into binding human customs that glorified obedience and sacrifice. The first confirmed epigraphical evidence of Sati comes from Iran inscription of 510 Common Era, which is centuries after Vedic period. This shows that the practice was neither universal nor ancient, but instead a later social phenomenon. Other scattered references appears in ancient scripts, texts and literature, but they represent isolated events rather than a widespread ritual. Then why did it happen? Because new cultural values of marital honor and loyalty among ruling elites created pressure on the wives of warriors or the widowed wives of warriors to show or to demonstrate their ultimate sacrifice. Sati was not practiced uniformly across India. It appeared rarely in the families of Rajput elites in Rajasthan, where marital honor has to be demonstrated, and also a few communities of Brahmins in Bengal, where inheritance rule made widowhood life miserable. In many regions like Marathas, Kerala, and Vijayanagara, this practice was unknown or actively rejected and discouraged. Then why it happened? The same question repeats again and again. Because loyal social and economic pressures shaped the custom differently. Marital pride in Rajasthan, inheritance disputes in Bengal, proving it was never a universal Hindu ritual. Long before Britishers, the Indian rulers and emperors, they actively attempted to discourage sati. The Mughal Emperor Akbar, for example, issued edicts against forced emotion and provided widows with state support to avoid coercions. Reformers like Raja Ram Mohan Rai also argued against sati on the basis of Hindu scriptures, because Indians themselves recognized the harm and coercion sati, promoting indigenous reforms well before colonial intervention. Missionaries like William Carey and other administrators reported hundreds and thousands of cases in Bengal alone annually to dramatize the issue. Carey claimed 10,000 cases per year of sati has been reported. But the records have shown far fewer in 1823 as 575 cases in Bengal Presidency and only 300 cases in 1829. Anand Young's research shows that only 1.2% of widows had committed sati. Even Governor Bentinck, who banned it, admitted that by a vast majority of people throughout India, the practice is not kept up. By portraying sati as a preservative horror, the British could morally justify their rule and strengthen missionary activity. It created what scholars called atrocity literature, designated to depict Hinduism as cruel, irrational, and in need of Christian salvation. Thus, the suppression of sati became part of the larger civilization mission narrative, strengthening colonial legitimacy. When compared against the massive Indian population, the actual recorded cases of sati are fractionally, statistically negligible. For instance, in Bengal from 1815 to 1828, sati cases represented only a tiny fraction of widowhoods. In Western India, it is limited to elite Rajput families, and in South, it is practically unknown. Therefore, sati was not a civilizational norm, but a localized social practice which has the involvement of complex economic, political, and cultural drivers. To conclude this topic, I would say sati must be re-evaluated, not as a defining feature of Hindu society, but as a rare and regionally specific custom. Its scriptural sanction was contested, its spread uneven, and its number far fewer than colonial records suggested. The exaggerated narrative served the imperial project of portraying India as a land of superstitions and cruelty. In reality, sati was an exceptional tragedy, a marginal practice in India's long civilized history, not the essence of Hindu womanhood or Indian society. If you have liked this video, make sure you like it and share it with all your friends and family. And make sure that they have a narrative on Sati which is not exactly what they know of. See you in the next video and subscribe.